Florida Governor Ron DeSantis continues to spend millions to bus and fly migrants to other cities. This morning, 2 busloads of migrants got dropped off in front of Vice President Kamala Harris's home. Wednesday, about 50 migrants unexpectedly arrived by plane on Martha's Vineyard. They had no money, and most, if not all, do not speak English. The chair of Martha's Vineyard Democratic Committee said this: the migrants did not know where they were.
I think confused is the first thing that comes to mind. They have no idea where they are. They were told that they were coming somewhere where there would be jobs and housing waiting for them. And they landed here and no one was here to welcome them. We had no idea they were coming and they were just extremely confused, trying to explain to them where they are. They have no idea where they are. No one speaks English, so we had to get some translators down there. But I would say that, when it was a little, it was very unnerving to know that there's a governor in the country that would just traffic human people to another state, just dump them there like garbage.
The aid workers.
He's just sending the migrants to places that want them.
We are not a sanctuary state, and it's better to be able to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction. And yes, we will help facilitate that transport for you to be able to go to greener pastures. Biden would fly people in the middle of the night, dump them all across this country. There was no warning on any of this. And all those people in D.C. and New York were beating their chests when Trump was president, saying they were so proud to be sanctuary jurisdictions, saying how bad it was to have a secure border. The minute even a small fraction of what those border towns deal with every day is brought to their front door, they all of a sudden go berserk, and they're so upset that this is happening. And it just shows you, their virtue signaling is a fraud.
Terry addressed the migrants being shipped off earlier today.
And when you say there's a legal way of doing this, are you implying that the way it's being done now is illegal?
So I'll say this. We've been asked about if we're going to take any legal action. I would refer that to the Department of Justice. But there is a process. There's a process of taking in migrants. There's a process that is in place. And what they are doing is a legal stunt, is a political stunt, and it's really just disrespectful to humanity. It doesn't afford them any dignity what they're doing when you are abandoning families and children in a place where they were told they were going to get housing, in a place where they were told they were going to get jobs, or abandoning on the DC streets. It is just cruel, and it's not about the process. Actually, it's about a political tool, a political stunt that they're moving forward with.
The migrants who are being ushered out of Florida are asylum seekers. They have been allowed to stay in this country by the U.S. Customs, Border and Protection until their petitions go through the system. Let's go to the panel. Joining us every Thursday is the great Dr. Carr, Department of African American Studies from Howard University, Dr. Jason Nichols, Senior Lecturer from African American Studies Department of University of Maryland College Park, and Michael Imhotep, host of the African American History Network show. Hey, fellas. Thank you for joining us and joining me.
Good to see you, Reese.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
How you doing, Queen Reese?
Oh,
How you doing, sister?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm actually quite livid about what we just saw. I take really strong objection to calling this a political stunt when we're talking about human beings being trafficked. That's what's happening. This is kidnapping and human trafficking, all for these degenerate governors to get their shits and giggles off at the expense of very vulnerable people. Dr. Carr, start us off with your reaction to these games being played with the lives of real people.
Well, yes, thank you, Reese. And like I say, it's good to see you in that seat. You've been busy all week, sis. I don't know how you're doing it. You're the hardest working woman in the news business this week. but yeah, I enjoy this and I'm encouraged by it, in fact. Because we look at these folks as human because they are human. Andrew DeSantis, that pufferfish, that piece of human garbage, is trying to run for president, as we know. We know that his great-grandmother, Luigi Carlucci, who couldn't read or write, when she showed up at Ellis Island from Italy in 1921 in February, the federal government passed a law that said we're not letting people who can't read or write in the country, but the law went into effect in May. So, but for several months, we haven't had to worry about this pufferfish because his great-grandmother wouldn't have been in the country. As for the shovel-mouthed bastard in Texas, he too is running for president. Doug Ducey, another racist, in Arizona, lining it up. And going to Massachusetts, there's a Republican governor up there. They don't see anybody in this as a human being. But I'm encouraged by it because this is what they do in the South. This country has never been a country for them. These white nationalists, there was a time when they shipped black people out of the South. To go to graduate school, they said, you can't go to graduate school in the South. We'll ship you to the Midwest. We'll pay for you to go to school anywhere else. They gave one-way bus tickets to black people for decades to send them out. So they're doing what they should be doing. And I say that for this reason. Because we've seen this before, because we know they're no respecters of law, because they lie to these people and tell them their jobs and housing somewhere, which actually might come just close to being afoul of the law, because if they went against their will or they were coerced or they were lied to, it might amount to kidnapping. They are trying very desperately to embrace this notion of hatred as a state issue that they can use to propel themselves to perhaps the presidency. But as Lindsey Graham showed us this week, we all know that hatred, federalism goes by the board when you're trying to make white nationalism your campaign at the national level too. So I'm encouraged by this because they're going to finally break it, I think. I want them to continue to do this because it's white Christian national. It's white, what I should say, it's white theology. It's white nationalist theology. It's not Christianity, as a sign I saw the other day said. In Illinois, the church had a sign that said, of course we're pro-immigrant. We're Christians.
Right.
But, he's not a Christian. He's a Klansman down there in Florida. So keep doing it.
Yeah, to me, it's demonic. That's what it is. They freaking devil worshippers, if you ask me. And they're really revealing their lack of humanity. I mean, they've been attacking women, for instance. They've been attacking black people. They've been attacking the citizenship of American U.S.-born citizens. So it's no surprise that they would attack the humanity and just the ability to even exist where they are legally allowed to be at this time. But, to your point, Dr. Carr, what are laws if this isn't illegal? I mean, if it's not illegal to take people who can barely speak English and say, come here on this boat, or on a boat, but on this bus, on this plane, and where you go, you'll have the opportunity to stay together with your family. There's food, there's opportunities, and yet when they actually land there, they're completely oblivious to what they're really into. Dr. Nichols, I was looking at some footage from Fox News, and they were just giddy with this whole thing. They were reporting on this like this was like, people arriving, you're like people running a marathon and you're waiting to see who's going to pass the finish line first, and you're interviewing the people at the end of it. And what was striking for me was just the happiness of the people getting off the bus. I mean, the person on Fox News was greeting people right off the bus. So at that point, that can barely speak English, it hasn't even hit them yet that this is all a trick being pulled on them. The wool is being pulled over their eyes. What's your reaction to just the way that these people are being violated?
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement with you and Dr. Carr in the sense that it's clear that they were playing games with people's lives. And we have to understand, in terms of a secure border, the last time we had a major surge was in 2019. You didn't hear Ron DeSantis or any of these people speak up at that time, except to say that we need a wall. They allegedly built something and nothing happened. It didn't really fix anything. And we've seen that a lot of the things that they've talked about and that they try to do have been ineffective. Instead of trying to come up with solutions, which I think this administration, while they're not perfect, this administration has tried to come up with solutions. They've talked to the other nations. Mexico has devoted about $1.1 billion to help with the issues on our border. Vice President Harris rightly went down to address the root causes that we've seen in terms of climate change and other things in Central American countries, and help stabilize some of those places so that we don't have these issues. But we have to also understand that this is a legal process by which these people are coming in. And the big part is that they're being misled. They're being told these things. And as a matter of fact, in Texas, when they were pulling these buses out to begin with, at first, they were stopping in Georgia and people were getting off the bus in Georgia. And all of a sudden, people complained. The Republicans started to complain, so they changed the routes, that the buses were taking from Texas to get to New York and to get to other places. It's really disgusting and despicable. And Ron DeSantis is pretty much a pick-me politician. So he's pretty much doing anything to get people's attention. This whole thing about voter integrity, which we know is a joke, and those 20 people are all going to get off because it's illegal, but he doesn't care. It's all about the spectacle, and it doesn't matter that these are vulnerable people, as you said, U.S.-born people, or whether they're other people who were born outside of the United States. As long as he gets a headline and he gets mentioned on Fox and Friends, and he can start to propel himself on the national stage, that's pretty much all that matters to him. And this is really troubling when we're talking about people with babies in their arms, that we are doing that. Instead of trying to find solutions and saying, hey, I've got a solution for what's going on the border, they're just shipping people and hoping they get news coverage. It's despicable and disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. And, if Ron DeSantis is looking for a headline, here's one for you. Ron DeSantis is a piece of shit. That should be a headline. Greg Abbott is a piece of shit. There's another headline for you. If you want headlines, those should be the headlines. Lock them up. How about those for some damn headlines? Because I am sick of the way that this is being covered on the media, as though this is just another part of political gamesmanship of people just trying to angle for 2024, when this has real dire consequences. Michael, Dr. Nicholas brings up the point about the border being secure. In my judgment, and I think that there's a lot that we can, as people of conscience, quibble with about the American immigration system and how inhumane it is. We saw the disgusting treatment of Haitian refugees. They're getting shipped back before they can even touch down. But if we're just talking strictly in terms of a security basis, in my view, security looks like what we have in the sense of people try to cross the border, they're caught. I don't like to use that word, but let's just talk about it in strictly security senses. They're caught, they go through an orderly process. It's not always the most pleasant process for them, but it is orderly. They are put in the system to have their case adjudicated. That to me is security. What we're seeing these Republicans do, that's the opposite of security. They're actually creating the chaos. To me, an insecure border would be having, a dozen or so migrants pop up in a random city like, hey, y'all, anybody got anything for us? We here now. Like, that's not a secure border. So, what's your take on just the way that these folks have just been plopped in here and the kind of chaos that it's actually causing for not just the people that are experiencing this injustice, but also for the states and the cities that have to react to this influx of people who don't even know how to fend for themselves at this point?
Right. So, there's a number of different things going on, and there's a deep historical context to this as well, even before Texas and Florida become states in the union. Number one, Florida needs to be desanitized, number one. They're both up for re-election in November 2022. Both need to be voted out of office and taken out of power. And this is what happens when you don't have policies to really benefit people, and they focus on the cruelty. They're both trying to out-Trump Trump. They focus on the cruelty. So you look at DeSantis in Florida. And what's really interesting, and Greg may want to weigh in on this, at one time, Florida was free territory, and runaway African slaves ran into Florida to get away from the white supremacists. Now you got the white supremacists who are taking people who are immigrating from these other countries. And some of these other countries, to be quite frankly, were conquered by Christopher Columbus and have never been the same. They've been screwed up for over 500 years or so. They've never been the same from what's happened. The colonization has happened to them. So we see this is like part of the epitome of white fear, which is Roland's book.
Yeah.
This is the fear of the browning of America. And what happens when you have white supremacists who have power to inflict harm upon them, but they're trying to do this for votes. So people have to be smarter than this. These people have to be taken out of office. Possibly, if the evidence is there, they can be prosecuted by the Department of Justice as well. I don't know if this will qualify as kidnapping. Don't have all the details. Possibly could. But, you know, and then you have Governor Greg Abbott out of Texas. And he sent, if I remember correctly, he sent migrants he sent them to Washington, D.C. Muriel Bowser had to declare a state of emergency. At that time, this was a couple of weeks ago, he had spent $12 million deporting migrants. But this is the same guy who said he was going to eliminate rape.
Right.
How's that going?
Right.
I haven't heard anything about him eliminating rape. So this is what happens when you have the wrong people in office. You gotta vote and take these people out of power.
Yes. Well, speaking of voting in midterms, I have 2 books that actually expose how much of a piece of shit these people are. But not only that, what they're really up to, what they've done already, what they're planning for the next term. So go ahead and pick that up, Long and Short of a Guide to the 2022 midterms. The must-watch races and the radical Republicans, if you really want to see me drag them.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is RMartinUnfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.